Good morning, everyone, and thank you once again for joining us on the second installment of our four-part series on the new Microsoft 365 Business Suite that will be soon launching here in Australia with the Office 365 CSP program. My name is Craig Bobet. I'm the National Sales Manager for the cloud team here in Australia, and joining us today is Robert Crane, Microsoft MVP and Director of CIA.
I'll do a restart. It'll take about 5 minutes, and then I'll check. Bye.
So thank you once again for joining us. Today I'll be handing you directly over to Rob, who's going to take us through Microsoft 365 Business on how to pitch this into the market to your customers. And then I'll be joining back a little bit later and just taking you through some of the offers that we've got on board and how you can get in touch with the team. But without further ado, let me introduce you to Robert Crane. Rob, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Craig. Can you hear me?
I've got you loud and clear.
Excellent. All right, so let's kick off. So what we're here to talk about is the Microsoft 365 for Business. So our agenda for today is we're going to have a look at the current technology environment, and we're going to do a bit of a review on what Microsoft 365 Business is, and then we're going to look at the way to position it or pitch it to clients. So one of the ways to look at the environment today is that there are a lot of challenges out there, particularly because we have such a fragmented environment. So we have fragmented environments because we have different platforms out there for our customers. So they're running maybe Windows 7, 8, Windows 10. They're potentially running different versions of Office. So, 2010, some people still running 2007. Again, some people now getting it from Office 365, but we don't generally see a lot of consistency out there with many clients because they have accumulated those resources over a period of time and are really of the mindset that they have to run them out until they're basically exhausted in value. Now, not only do we have challenges around different versions of software, we also have challenges around our hardware. So we've got lots and lots of PCs out there, different ages. We've now got mobile devices, we've got laptops, we've got things like Microsoft Surface, and what we're finding is that these sort of products are a commodity, and users are generally purchasing them from larger big box movers, or again picking devices that they have a personal preference for. So the gone are the days of rolling out 20, 30 workstations generally to the SMB crowd. They pick and choose what they want, and this could occur at any stage. Now, the expectation obviously is to get those to integrate with all the systems, work together, and run the latest software, which can be a bit of a challenge. Now, of course, at the back end, we have a variety of servers as well. So some people are still out there running SPS. We've also got things like Server 2012. We've also got Active Directory out there running, and we're wanting to integrate that with Azure AD these days to share information with the cloud like Office 365 and third-party applications. Microsoft CRM, another example of a product that consumes Azure AD. And to manage all this stuff, again, there's lots and lots of options, things like AirWatch, Mobile Line. We've got Shadow IT style products like Dropbox that people are using to share files, Google apps out there, lots and lots of different options. So one of the takeaways, I think, of the current environment is simply the fact that a lot of end users and customers are of the opinion that what they have is good enough. It does the job, it does the minimum, that's all they need going forward. I think that the reality today is that competitive businesses appreciate and understand the value that current IT gives them. So they can achieve so much more utilising the platforms that are getting all the advantages of things like Windows 10, the latest version of Office, and again, making sure all their systems are up to date. So one of the big differences, I think, or one of the big points to speak to people about in the environment is that there's a lot of cost savings to be made by having a consistent environment, all the same or as close to up-to-date you have, and also, especially when it comes to software. So everybody having the same version of Office, the same version of Outlook, all of that is a big bonus. Now, the solution that Microsoft is bringing to us to allow us to solve this is the Microsoft 365 product. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, Microsoft 365 is composed of three major products. So it's the Office 365 that you know and love. It's the standard Business Premium. It's the standard Enterprise SKU. So it's built on the latest Exchange server. It's built on SharePoint Online, OneDrive, all that good stuff. But what it bundles together is that plus a Windows 10 environment. So again, the Microsoft 365 for Business includes a Windows 10 professional upgrade for all machines that basically are suitable. So Windows 7 Pro and also Windows 8 and 8.1 Pro are able to get a direct upgrade to Windows 10 Pro. If you go to the Microsoft 365 Enterprise, then the Windows 10 version is the Enterprise version of Windows 10 that comes with the subscription. Now, Windows 10 gives us really cool things now like the new Windows Defender, the Autopilot, which is the ability to roll out machines directly from the internet without any back-end, without any work with the IT department. And we've also got the ability now to roll out our applications from Office 365 directly, again, from the internet. Now, included with that is also the best of the Enterprise Mobility Suite. So in here, you'll find things like device management, so the ability, for example, to prevent users copying and pasting corporate information into private apps, so taking information from their corporate Outlook to their Gmail, that can be prevented and blocked. You can also manage the device, so you can say, well, unless the device is current, up-to-date, not jailbroken, it's unable to connect and consume the corporate information. Now, the EMS now also extends to things like Windows 10 devices, so we can auto-encrypt our devices. We can make sure they're secure. We can also extend that now to Macintoshes. So the iOS environment is, again, supported depending on, obviously, the version of Microsoft 365 you go with. Now, one of the big advantages of having all these three products is that Microsoft 365 will bring these together in a single admin console at the back end. So what that means for you as a provider who's looking after customers who have these licenses is, again, the benefits you get from administrating Office 365 from a web console and PowerShell. You can also get those same advantages by managing the whole environment, Windows 10, the devices and everything else, basically from a remote location. So it makes it nice and easy through a single console. Now, we have, like I said, a number of options when it comes to Microsoft 365. So the place to start is thinking about Office 365, which you know, which are the applications like Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Yammer, all of those are in the Office 365 product. But if we now add, for example, the Windows 10 Pro subscription and some device management from EMS, we get the Microsoft 365 for Business SKU. Okay, so this is aimed particularly at the SMB environment. And if we do need more power, we do need more functionality, we can scale that up to the Microsoft 365 Enterprise. So this is going to be the Enterprise versions of 365, the Enterprise versions of Windows 10, as well as the Enterprise versions of the EMS suite. So, for example, one of the inclusions in the Enterprise version of EMS for Microsoft 365 Enterprise is Azure AD Premium. So that's going to give you potentially two-way password sync and a lot of additional features. So remember, there are basically the Office 365 and then two Microsoft 365 options here, Business and Enterprise. So how do you go about determining which version of Microsoft 365 is right for your organization? Well, the first thing that you need to look at is how many employees. Now, in the SMB space, probably not a lot of businesses that are over 300 seats, but if they are, you'll need to look immediately at the 365 Enterprise because the business SKU is limited to 300. Now, again, if you need some of the more advanced features, again, things basically like remote desktop services, the upcoming cloud PSTN calling and cloud PBX, then again, you'll need to move to the Microsoft 365 Enterprise SKUs because they're giving you the Office 365 SKUs that allow that. But if you don't need that, again, you just need to determine now whether your environment or the customer's environment needs things like group policy. Do they need to retain on-prem file shares? Are they going to do Azure AD Connect? Is that required? So the reason here is that the Microsoft 365 for Business, the SMB solution, is very much targeted at an environment that no longer requires an on-prem traditional domain controller. So thanks to Azure AD, we can now do our identities directly from the cloud and without the need to have our domain controller. However, if you do need things like the group policy and whatnot, then again, you'll need to obviously, again, consider the enterprise version of the SKUs so that that can be supported. But again, what we find is that a lot of the smaller clients really don't need a domain controller. They don't have very complex group policy requirements. So again, if they can eliminate that, then again, we can now go down to the point and ask ourselves, okay, do they need the full device management? Okay, so the full device management is basically Intune. This gives us the low-level customizations to go in and tweak individual settings, gives us a larger range of options when it comes to managing our mobile devices. Again, something you need to evaluate on the needs of the customer. But again, most SMB customers probably don't need such a low level of detail initially to protect their devices. At the moment, they're probably not protected at all. So again, provided that none of these apply, then again, the decision for you is to look at Microsoft 365 for Business. Now, the good thing is the SKUs are applied just like Office 365. You buy them by the CSP. They're pushed into the tenant, and then they're assigned to users as you normally see with Office 365. Again, they're usually a month-by-month purchase, so you can move them around. You can add more licenses. You can change them between users. You can allocate different features within that suite to users when they're ready. So again, the Microsoft 365 for Business licensing is pretty much identical to the way that you should be familiar with the Office 365 environment. Now, one of the big things I see on the horizon that I think that we do need to pay attention to is the new European privacy law called GDPR, which is kicking in around May 2018. Now, in essence, what this says is that there are very tight and, I suppose, important privacy laws that you need to pay attention to as a provider if you are managing information from any user who resides inside the EU. So if you have customers who do business with people in Europe, if you have customers who have users who log in from Europe, then potentially you may be subject to the GDPR requirement. So again, the penalties for not complying with this can be quite onerous. They're talking about 4% of the revenue of the business as a potential fine. So again, if you do have an environment that has some European connections, I think you need to basically make sure that you're across what the GDPR requires. The good thing, obviously, is if you're looking at the Office 365, Microsoft 365 environment, Microsoft is making sure for you that those products are GDPR compliant, that the users, their information, their login, their passwords, the auditability, the tracking, all of that complies with the GDPR requirement. So one of the big things we'll talk about with the environment today is the focus on security. And one of the big things coming on the horizon is this GDPR requirement for European citizens. Now, just to give you an idea of the costings of the Microsoft 365 environment, so we have business plans, and they're roughly about $25 versus the current business premium of about $17.50. And then we've obviously got Enterprise E3 and Enterprise E5 of Office and Microsoft 365. And again, you can see the prices there. This also gives you an idea of what features are included in each plan. And you can also go in and add additional features after the fact. So again, like most Microsoft Office 365 environment, you can purchase one license and you can add more licenses. You can target it at specific users. So again, there's no particular lock-in. You've got this whole suite of Microsoft Cloud available to you, and you can just license that through the traditional CSP and then provide that to your users and obviously manage and maintain that for them. So we're going to focus here particularly on the Microsoft 365 for Business, the SMB plans. Now, those plans have been available in preview since the 2nd of August. If you wish to get a preview, you can speak to Ingram and they can push that out as a $0 preview into an Australian tenant for you. And again, the way that it is deployed is going to be the standard way through the CSP. Now, Microsoft announced just recently, in the last week or so, that it will be making the Microsoft 365 for Business available from the 1st of November. Now, the enterprise version, Microsoft 365 enterprise SKUs are currently available. You can purchase those, the E3 and the E5. They are available if you wish to go that way. But the Microsoft 365 for Business will be available from the 1st of November, but you can get a trial to get a bit of a feel for what's going on. So that's a bit of an overview of the Microsoft 365 environment. Let's now talk about the customer in relation to this product. Now, obviously, we've got to make sure that we focus on the customer, what's the best option for them and what's really going to help their business. So as I mentioned, one of the big things here for most customers, their mentality is very much around, oh, good enough is all I need. Well, the reality in this competitive market is that you can't be just good enough. Just good enough is not going to cut it. If you've got older IT systems, you're going to have problems. They're going to be vulnerable to security issues and so on. So the first real message I'd be looking to speak to customers about is that, well, good enough in IT is not good enough. It's really going to put you behind the ball. It's going to make you less competitive than your peers, and it's not going to give you the advantages of automation, of scalability, and all that sort of stuff. Now, one of the big questions customers generally seem to focus on is around price. So as I say, that if a customer comes to you and says, well, this option you're talking about is too expensive, then what they're basically saying to you is, I don't understand the value between these two options. When I don't understand the value between two options, I make a choice purely on the price because that's all I can determine. So what you need to do is you need to talk to customers and help them understand the value of obviously the Microsoft 365 environment. So things like having the latest version of Outlook, having the latest version of Excel on their desktop, having access to their files anywhere they go, being able to work remotely, but also incorporate things like the security, the ability to recover much faster from things like CryptoLocker, to make sure their devices are kept secure no matter where they are. If they get lost, they can be easily wiped if needed. So the real secret here is not to focus on the price, is to focus on the value. Take the components of Microsoft 365, map them out to business needs for your clients, and go and talk to them about the value that these can provide and the solutions they can give clients that remove their pain point. Just don't focus on the price, okay? The pricing, again, basically means when you get into a conversation with a customer and all they see is price, what they're telling you is that we don't understand the value, which really puts it back on the reseller to make sure that they have that value statement in a way that the customer understands in their own mind. Now, in the world of IT, unfortunately, something that grows as fast as the functionality of our cloud systems is the vulnerability as well. So many users out there are being hit by the CryptoLocker, by things that haven't been patched and up to date. We've now got devices that are roaming around that can be left in taxis, that can be forgotten, that are vulnerable, that don't have antivirus protection on them. So again, security is going to continue to be a very, very large component of anything that the customer deals with. We're seeing enhanced things like phishing attacks and so on. So again, excuse me, the important thing about the Microsoft 365 is it's going to give you the end-to-end protection for not only your information, but also your devices. Remember that the users are buying lots more devices than they are buying traditional desktops. And as I mentioned with that GDPR environment, customers today need to make sure they're compliant with Australian privacy laws, potentially with overseas laws like GDPR, and also things coming out of the US ISO requirements. what is the compliance requirement you have for the industry? This is where a reseller can go in and add value, understand what those environments, what those communities require when it comes to compliance, and then show people how the Microsoft solution maps to those compliance requirements and solves those. Again, if you've got financial planners, if you've got anybody dealing with customer information, it's going to be subject to compliance, and it needs to be in a place where the IT is also compliant. Many of these older systems are now no longer compliant. They are no longer supported by the standards. Credit card processing requires a minimum level of operating system. So again, take the compliance requirements, go to your customer and say, look, did you realise that machines that you have that you thought were good enough technically are no longer compliant, and this could put you and your business at risk because you're running out of date and older systems. Now, on top of all this, we've got cost, we've got security, we've got compliance concerns, but our customers need to get their job done. They need to process information. They need to be able to make their employees able to do the job they need to do. Now, thanks to the Microsoft 365 environment, which includes Office 365, we're getting things like 5 installs of our Office desktop across our environment for every user. We're getting terabytes of personal storage space for OneDrive. We're getting new applications like Teams that allows users to work in a single environment and allow them to be more productive on their mobile devices and also on their desktop. So at the end of the day, yes, value, cost, money, security is all important, but our users need to get their job done, and the tools in these environments allow them to do it so much better. So as I mentioned, some of the ways that Microsoft 365 will do this is they can do it in their traditional Outlook. The latest version makes it easy to send attachments as full files or as links. We've got the ability to, again, manage our contacts much better, connect to our Microsoft 365 groups. All these sort of things are now built into Outlook. We're getting the ability to manage meetings much easier. We've also got our Skype for Business, which is rolling into our Microsoft Teams. So, again, we can now conduct business remotely. We don't need necessarily to actually go there. We can do a lot of things remotely. We can share desktops. Using Teams, we have a chat environment in which users can reduce the email overhead. Everybody can see what's going on, and all that information becomes searchable. Teams then becomes the front end into things like SharePoint, into Power BI, into third-party applications. The good thing is it's available on the desktop or on the mobile app, so people will be productive and wherever they are with these applications that are included in this suite. Now, if you haven't heard, the All Creators update with Windows 10 brings us OneDrive on-demand syncing ability. This means now that you don't necessarily have to sync everything to your desktop immediately. You can choose what you select from the cloud, but you can certainly see everything that is in your OneDrive and your SharePoint environment. So this makes it much, much easier for users to work with information online and offline, reduces the amount of sync problems that we used to see when they tried to sync lots and lots of information. So again, this flexibility to take the information wherever you are, work with it in the cloud, work with it on the desktop, using the latest syncing technology from Microsoft is going to make the user's life so much easier and much more productive. And again, it removes a lot of the barriers. So make sure that you're, again, talking to them about the latest versions of Office they get with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all the really cool features. So some of the latest things in PowerPoint allow you to take 3D images and morph them between slides. There are some really fantastic features that are adding on an iterative basis regularly to Word, Excel, PowerPoint. We can now work with these files with multiple editors no matter where we are. So multiple people can work in Excel, can work in PowerPoint, can work in Word across the web, from their browser, from their desktop. And this, again, is not something that most users are able to do in their current environment. Okay, so again, make sure you talk to them about the mobility and, again, the ability for them to license up to 5 machines that they can run Office on per user. Now, security, as you mentioned, is going to be a big thing. Now, we need to centralise this. Having a central management tied to Office 365 is going to make it easier for you as a provider to manage the security, get visibility into the devices, reduce their footprint by encrypting information on their devices, making sure it's secure, making sure information isn't being leaked out, being able to detect and remediate any vulnerabilities or any security issues which basically appear. So bringing these Windows 10 devices into the umbrella of that portal is going to make it much easier and allow you to be more proactive when it comes to security. So again, the focus for the customer is to talk about the value here. So we've got a much easier way to connect with not only our internal staff, but also our external users. So Microsoft Teams, for example, now supports external users who can come into the team and collaborate with existing users without any additional licensing cost. Another important point is the integration between Windows 10 on the desktop and things like Cortana with Office 365. So with the Fall Creators Update, you'll be able to, you run a search from your Windows 10, it will search not only your local machine, it will connect to Office 365 and do a search through that environment. And now, thanks to Microsoft's recent purchase of LinkedIn, we're also beginning to see the connection of LinkedIn data into Office 365 and again, followed through to the desktop. So the Windows 10 search bar and Cortana, which you can use as well, is going to allow you potentially to search across your whole environment using something as simple as voice commands. Again, making sure you've got the latest tools on the desktop, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. They're pretty much standard for most businesses, especially Word and Excel. Having the latest version is just going to remove so many pain points, so many limitations, and also give you a consistency across that environment. And again, we look at a customer's environment, we see information on their devices, information on their desktop, some on the server, some in different locations. Putting it all in one location that we can manage, is compliant, is backed up, is basically in a way that makes it much easier to maintain and provide compliance and search across if we need. Just makes life so much easier. And again, reduces costs for customers because it's a much easier environment for people like you to manage. And as you mentioned, security is the big thing here. There is so much security that needs to be done around mobile devices. They now contain corporate information. They're now accessing corporate emails. There's valuable information on there, and unfortunately these devices are easily lost and easily compromised. So this is something you can speak to your customers about. What protections do they have in place for the devices? How are they managing those? How are they preventing their users from doing the wrong thing or surfing inappropriate material during work hours on their mobile devices? So we need to have that control. This control with Microsoft 365 is built into the product, is integrated with things like Azure AD, and just makes life so much easier because it's from a single supplier. Now, the important thing here is to remember and to talk to customers, help them understand that every business now is a software business. Software is the cornerstone of every business, no matter how big or how small you are. If you sell widgets, it doesn't matter. The software behind the scenes is what drives the business, is what provides the ability to be efficient and effective in this market. So you need to focus on the software. This means that obviously it needs to be up to date. You need to be making sure that they're utilising all the features. This is a value add that resellers can go in and ask customers, are they using Yammer? Are they using the social tools? Are they using Word, Excel, PowerPoint to their full extent? Did they know that these tools can now do these sort of things, which once before you would need to go out to a third party, a graphics workshop, for example, and pay lots and lots of money to do that. So a lot of that you can now bring in-house. But of course, we need to manage this software. Who's licensed? Well, who's up to date? Who's got the latest features? Is everything patched? Is everything updated? Having all that from a single console that's easily manipulated using things like a web interface or potentially using things like PowerShell to script that is so important because it just means that it can be done so much quicker, so much more consistently in an automated manner. And speaking of automation, software automation is key here. You get tools like Microsoft Flow with Office 365. You potentially get things like Logic Apps and Azure Functions that are going to allow you to remove so many of those mundane, repetitive tasks that customers and every business does quickly and easily. Because it's all integrated into a single environment, your flow can connect to your Word, your SharePoint, and potentially down the track it can connect to your devices and also manipulate those as well. So again, the way to reduce costs, the way to add additional value is to look at the automation ability that can be built into Office 365 and providing solutions for customers, whether you as a reseller provide that or you help users understand so they can automate themselves. But the power of the automation of the software these days with Office 365 is really, really powerful when you look at macros and things like flow. Mobility, we need to have the ability for people to access their information and the latest software wherever they are. This means the focus is moving outside the organisation. It's moving to the devices people use, how they use them, when they use them, but also keeping them up to date. So, for example, iOS recently updated and had an issue with the connectivity exchange. That meant it needed to release another update and push that out to machines. So, again, this is an environment where you can go and talk to your customer and say, okay, are you confident that all your devices are current? Are they all up to date? Do they have the latest patches? Do they have any antivirus or anti-malware on them? In a lot of cases, they probably won't. So again, if you're managing desktops in that sort of manner already, which you're probably doing via your business now, again, look at extending that exactly the same way into devices. The devices are the things that are growing. The devices typically for customers don't have the management that are currently being done by the desktops. And obviously, the vulnerability side of it is you become a lot less vulnerable if your systems are kept up to date. Windows 10, again, generally out of the box, will be doing automatic updates. This is going to make a big difference. When vulnerabilities come out, they're usually patched very, very quickly, and if they're automated, they're already up to date. But what about your devices? What about your other software? How is that being done? That's, again, if you're not keeping things up to date on your devices as well, then you are potentially vulnerable. Now, one of the things Microsoft brings to this ability here is the ability now to roll out Windows 10 devices using things like autopilot. So basically, you set up the back end, the user buys a new machine, opens it up, connects it to the internet, they log in with their Azure AD credentials, the machine recognises them, automatically connects to the Office 365 environment, and then thanks to the policies that have been set up in the back end with Microsoft 365, it will deploy your Office software and potentially all their custom software as well. So the user can have a complete configuration out of the box by simply logging into a Windows 10 device that they purchase on a Saturday or a Sunday, and the reality is they're then productive immediately. However, at the back end, people, IT professionals and resellers are going to need to set this up. They're going to have to need to configure, to manage and maintain it. But the real payoff, again, is for the end user when they just can buy any machine and they turn it on, log in, and they'll know it will be provisioned for them. Again, if they travel overseas, they lose their device, they can buy a new one from a local store, log in, and that machine will be provisioned for them and secured, and that is something that the reseller needs to set up. You've also got the ability to do Hyper-V inside Windows 10. So if you've got legacy environments that still do need Windows 7 for some reason, or some operating system, or some older version of software, don't overlook the fact that Windows 10 Professional and Enterprise support the ability to have Hyper-V machines inside them. Obviously, you need the resources to run those, but again, you've got that ability to run Hyper-V on the client machine, maybe to run that third-party app that they just need before they migrate it to a cloud-based offering. Again, the main thing is this is all built into the Office 365, Microsoft 365 console, making it much easier to manage and deploy, which is going to end up as saving time, adding more value because you're now extending the management and the security beyond just the software environment. You're extending it into the devices and to Windows 10 devices as well. Now, speaking of security, don't forget that Windows 10, we've got things like BitLocker to encrypt our machines. Make sure every device that leaves the organisation, mobile phones, whatever, are encrypted at rest using things like BitLocker. We've also got the integration in Microsoft 365 of our information protection. So this means that we can protect documents themselves by embedding the permissions inside the documents. No matter where they're sent on the internet, that permission is basically embedded into the document, and the user is control of that. So again, we're seeing a move away from protecting buckets and putting information in buckets or file shares and trying to protect the bucket, which is good until the information's moved out of that bucket, to a point where we can now provide security and permissions around each individual item. Thanks to the integration with the Windows Information Protection, Windows 10 and Office 365, we can do that very, very simply and very, very easily. And again, the reseller, the IT pro, will need to set this up for the client because it's a technical thing. But once it's set up, it really provides value for the customer because it protects their information very, very strongly. If you want to do good protection, we all know we should be doing two-factor authentication. We should be using SMSs, but the latest Windows machines, again, support Windows Hello. So a user can look at their machine, that will log them onto their machine and log them onto Azure AD, provide that security as well. Easy login, but a secure login at the same time. If the user loses their device, we've now got the ability to do a selective wipe. So they can bring their own devices excuse me, to the environment. When they leave, the corporation can then erase the information that's the corporate information only on that device. So the pictures of their kids' soccer matches remain, but all the corporate information is removed. So again, this potentially reduces costs where users can now bring their own devices. They can be put under management while they're currently working for that business, and then that management can be removed and all the information removed quickly and easily for them. So again, we need to focus on the fact that our customers are using these devices in multiple locations. They're using large screen devices like Windows 10 and tablets. They're using small screen devices that they need access to the same information, but they need that protection no matter where they go, whether they're inside the business on Wi-Fi, whether they're outside in the Qantas Club, or they connect up to a customer site potentially. We need to protect these wherever they are outside the environment. And again, the Microsoft 365 gives you those policies, gives you those abilities to apply the policies and then give you alerts and information about what's going on those devices. So part of it is to talk to your customers, to talk to them about being more strategic. You know, they're probably doing things in a very ad hoc manner, and that's going to cause a lot of inefficiencies and overhead. Now, they need to look at being more effective. What's the best way to use this technology? What's the best way to make the most of my time? Invest a little bit up front on some automation, and that's going to pay off every time it runs. So if they're doing things manually with paper, maybe something like OneNote, maybe something like Forms, or maybe what else we can provide is an automation using Flow to reduce. There are lots and lots of ways you can go into a business and easily see how to be more effective. Now you've got the tool base here of the Office 365 environment, plus now the integration with Windows 10 and also the EMS offerings. So again, the whole idea here is focus. What's the customer need? What's the business problem they have today? One of the good things you can go to customers and you can say is, okay, if I had a magic IT wand and I could run that, wave that over any of your problems, what would you like solved? What's the one problem in your business or challenge that you'd like IT to solve? Now, you may not be able to solve it, but again, go there looking to ask the questions. Don't simply provide IT. Don't simply provide the good enough. What's the minimum? Again, ask the questions. You know, what else can be done? Well, how can we improve your business? Move, as they say, from being a pure IT person to, okay, let's solve some business problems here, or take your experience with one customer and go and talk to other customers and say, you know what, I solved this problem using these tools over here. I think we could do the same thing in your environment. Would you like me to have a go at doing that? So again, knowing the tools is important so you can go to other customers and utilize the same tools. That's the great thing about the Microsoft environment is the customers with the same licenses have the same abilities. You can then take your solutions or your things you solved and use those in those environments. Again, we need to look at the profitability here. It's all well and good to make lots of revenue, but what are our costs? What's the cost of running a business? Again, if we're running on-prem environment, are we getting the most from it? The good thing about this environment is I can chop and change the licenses as I want. I can have more of this or less of this. I can mix and match business licenses with enterprise licenses if I need. I can look at things like kiosk licenses. So again, we've got far more customization, and we've also got the ability to move much quicker, as in if they don't need licenses, easily remove. If they need more licenses, we can easily add them and push them in. So again, focus on the profitability. Help your customer be more profitable. Again, it's not just necessarily the revenue. It's, okay, how can we make you more revenue? How can we reach more people? How can we automate your social networking using something like Flow? How can we report your figures by connecting Xero to Power BI? That's going to give you better insight into your business. Likewise, how can we reduce your expenses here by focusing on the ability to be more efficient using automation? Again, having less of what we need, because really, do we need all this information? Do we need all these disks? Why can't we just put it in something like OneDrive and get searchability? And again, we're going to need scale. You know, people are going to need to be able to do multiple things. Automation, again, is another key here. We do it once, repeat it many times. That's one of the advantages of software. We do it once and we can sell it all around the world. We can leverage it all around the world. We can run it as many times. Again, PowerShell, all those sort of things are going to allow you the ability to deploy this quicker. Using things like desired state configuration is going to allow you also to do things like apply consistent environments to on-prem environments. So again, look at the ability to take the scale here. So again, we've talked about BitLocker. We've got BitLocker to go if you need. You've got the selective wipe, but Windows information protection. We've got app protection, so we can protect our apps on mobile devices. We've got Hello. We've got Trusted Boot now in our devices as well. And Microsoft, again, has the integrated Windows Defender, which will report up to a single console to let you know if there are any issues. All right, so again, the up-to-date thing is so important. We're going to have the Windows Update for Business. We can defer updates. We can do updates, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, but obviously we want to move our users to a consistent environment, which is going to be Windows 10, where they're going to get the most benefit. And Microsoft 365 is going to give them that upgradability once they are licensed. So again, it's going to give them that plus all the goodness of Microsoft 365. So now this is going to give you the ability to manage users. It's going to be able to much quicker set up employees, not only just the user and their login, but also the devices like Windows 10, thanks to Autopilot. That's going to reduce your costs, which means that you'll be able to pass that on to customers. You'll be able to do a lot more, a lot quicker, in a lot more automated manner. Okay, and we can now manage and we can now maintain devices. You can go to users and say, yes, we can put everything your employees have under management, your phones, your tablets, your computers, everything. We can manage the lot. We can make sure it's secure. We can make sure it's always up to date. That's something that a customer wants to hear. They're happy to pay for that because that's value to their business. It's less that they have to concern themselves about, and they get more sleep at night knowing somebody's looking after it. Now, the Microsoft 365 environment includes a number of facilities and features, but don't forget, that's not the end of what you can offer customers. You can go in and you can talk to them about adding on things like advanced threat protection, which, again, will open emails in a sandboxed environment to see what it actually does. You can add advanced compliance like e-discovery, legal hold. You can include My Analytics, which allows you to look at the productivity. What's the user doing every day? How many emails are they sending? Who are they talking to? Are they being most effective in their environment? Power BI, another huge opportunity here for connection to lots and lots of corporate-style data. We've also got PSTN conferencing that's available, cloud PBX, and hopefully soon coming will be PSTN calling. We hopefully will see that integrate directly into Teams, so you'll now have one location to make calls, connect with people, chat, and access your files as well. And again, don't forget that over all of this, we've got Azure. So all of these options here, plus a lot more available to you in Azure. Virtual machines, websites, automation, mobile device management, lots and lots of additional powers available here. Machine learning. Again, it's just going to give you so many more options. You can go and talk to your customer about and potentially use that to solve problems that they have. So again, more value can be added. Because it's all managed, it's all typically accessed using the same ID they're using for Office 365, being their Azure AD, just makes life so much easier. Also means that you can manage and you can monitor these identities much easier in an environment because you've got things like Azure Security sitting over the top, monitoring the whole environment 24/7. So the takeaways I've got for you is build on the benefits with Office 365. Really look at what Office 365 can do for you today as a standalone product. Are you making the most out of tools like SharePoint, Yammer, Teams, Power BI? There's a lot of opportunity for there, either for yourself or maybe someone that you bring in that can assist you offering that to customers. Once you've got that, then Windows 10, getting them all up to a Windows 10 environment, giving them all the advantages, the latest operating system on their devices, the ability to do search from their command line, the ability to integrate with Cortana, again, the ability to deploy automatically to devices is really, really powerful and, again, saves a lot of time. Having a consistent environment also makes it much easier. Everybody's at the same level. Everybody's got the same environment. It's going to reduce problems. It's going to reduce friction. And again, importantly, reduce cost. Now, once you've got that, you can then start moving into the higher-end mobile device management. Okay, we've got your machines up to date with Windows 10. Now let's look at your devices. How do we manage those? How are we doing the applications? Are they all up to date? Do they have the right apps? Can people do what they need to on those devices? Do they have a PIN number? How are we managing those? So again, start with what's out there with Office 365. Look at the Windows 10 as the next option, bring everyone to a consistent environment, and then adding on the power and the manageability of the mobile device management. From there, obviously, you can then add the premium features of Azure and Office 365. You can just keep building here and applying licenses to the appropriate environment and users. So the actions here I would recommend are understand the Microsoft 365 product range. If you know Office 365, great. Windows 10, if you've got that under control, make sure you know the latest features like things like autopilot. Then make sure you understand what's provided in the EMS, the device management, the information protection areas of the business as well as the enterprise SKU. Like I said, look at autopilot, the ability to deploy Windows machines directly from the internet, and all the user needs is simply to log into the devices. Again, deploy and use these tools in your own business today. Have a play with them. Put them on a virtual machine. Are you using all the options in Office 365? Maybe Yammer doesn't make sense to you in your organization because it's small, but I'll guarantee it certainly makes sense to a lot of other businesses you're dealing with. So, again, don't write it off simply because you might not see value. Make sure you're across the whole range that you can go and talk to your customers, because everything you talk to them about is an opportunity for you potentially to make revenue and to solve their problems and make the customer stickier for yourself. So we've got that with Windows 10, Office 365, and now with Intune that are rolled into Microsoft 365. Obviously, today, tomorrow, the day after, things are going to change. They're going to add more features. Microsoft is constantly adding more features to Microsoft 365, to Intune, to Windows 10. All Creators Update, like I said, includes the ability now to do selective sync on our files that are stored in OneDrive and SharePoint Online. Again, this is a killer feature, I think. It's really a game changer in the sync world. So make sure you're up to date with that, how to apply it, what you need to have, and what abilities that it does provide. Go and talk to your clients. Let them know that these products are available. They're coming out. Are they interested in getting you to set them up and show them, again, the value, how they can save money and work more efficiently by using this latest technology. And it all starts with talking to customers and your prospects about the benefits of Office 365. So hopefully you've got some information here. Go away, tweak your interest, have a look at some specific features which really resonate with your market, and really go and talk to them about these products and the opportunities, because more products, more features means more opportunities for yourself as a reseller and the ability to go and solve more problems for businesses. So I think now I'm all done. I think I need to hand back over to Craig so he can roll us out with the Ingram information, Craig.
That's great. Thanks very much for that, Rob. And obviously there's been a whole raft of information that we've gone through today. So we will be sending out the deck later on today, post the webinar. And for those that have been paying attention, there will also be some questions around the quiz there for you to win a chance to get a $50 Visa card in there as well. Now, over and above that, if you're not aware, we've also got our Cloud Movers program running on at the moment. And Rob, if you can just move to the next slide, fantastic. So for those who are not aware, we're running our Cloud Movers program again for this half of the year. Go on, make sure that you register, sign up, earn those points for attending webinars such as today, doing the training, claiming your sales on there. and get in for your chance to win a trip through the Hunter Valley. We'll be doing a helicopter wine tour a little bit later on this year. See the address down there, my.ioncloudmovers.com.au. If you haven't already, make sure you join us today. Now, again, given that there's been a whole raft of information, there is a whole team dedicated here to you as well. So if any questions that you may have, please don't hesitate to reach out to the team, ioncloud@ingrammicro.com, or give us a call on 0293816735. And the third part of our series is coming up on Wednesday, the 22nd of November, on how to deploy Microsoft 365. But that's all for me, and thank you once again to Rob for taking us through. We'll be sending this out a little bit later today, but thank you everyone for joining us.